Welcome to the Mobile Armored Podcast Show, the podcast that transforms into a bullet train. My name is Adam Moore, alongside my co-host and best friend, PJ McNerney. How's it going, PJ?
I'm good, man. It's good to be, like you said before the pod, it's good to be back in the saddle.
It's good to be back in the saddle. We did take a week off, everyone. We apologize, but PJ had some Irish dancing.
I did. I had some Irish dancing to do. My youngest got into it, and then my wife did, and then I have joined. Now, I've done so far 3 performances of Irish dancing, and when I had done that, I had only 2 rehearsals at that point in time. So I don't know if I should award myself a Buddy Hawks award, because according to Ancestry DNA, I am 97% Irish, and so I think I was just trusting basically into my ancestral history and whiskey.
The other 2% is Mongolian. It's a really odd mix.
I really wish it was, because like when I first did this whole thing, like I was expecting like, oh, I'll find out all these things about where I'm from. It's no, you're from this part of Ireland. And it was like Galway. It was like this. It was like a subcircle within the circle. And then it's like 2% Wales and 1% like English or something like that. It's like, PJ, you're white. Like I was kind of disappointed. Like I would just a little bit more than a ghostly pale to my DNA.
Afraid not. Well, we will see if we can post some of the dancing on our Mobile Armored Podcast Show Instagram.
Oh yeah, we'll do that.
In the meantime, episode 28 is called Blackout. V.E.N.O.M has a new vehicle called Blackout, which is capable of draining power supplies. Indeed it is. We weren't talking about the Panda Poo rating for this episode?
Yeah, so it's a new rating. Listen, folks, if you've been paying attention, if you've been listening in order, last episode, we had an artist rolling around in Panda Poo, thing being forced to make statues for Miles and Co.
Yeah.
And it's just awful. Everything about it is awful. So that is our hopeful nadir to all episodes of M.A.S.K. So the question is this episode Panda Poo? What do you think, Adam?
I do not think it's Panda Poo.
I agree. I think
we have avoided the Panda Poo rating for this. It's above Panda Poo.
It's above Panda
but far below Rotex.
Most things are, though. Let's not. It's a hard bar to hit.
Yeah. Well, let's dive in, shall we? We open on Mount Fuji. So here's our second visit to Japan in this series so far. Got the bullet train is racing by, and it's Matt, Scott, and T-Bob on board in a first-class cabin. Must be very nice there. Scott calls it Matt's train. Which at first I said, yeah, of course he has his own bullet train. But it turns out Matt just invested in it so we can create our own bullet trains here in the U.S., So first of all, what doesn't Matt own? And second, how's that bullet train going in the U.S., Matt?
Here's my answers in opposite order. I think Matt believes he's got enough money and lobbying power. He's going to be able to break through whatever legislation is needed to bring that bullet train to the U.S. He is sadly wrong. Like, this is going to be one of the big failures. Like, Matt does not. Like, there are too many other interests involved. He's not getting that bullet train in the U.S.
Big Rail has the lobbying power to defeat the bullet train.
Indeed. And then Matt's got to be one of the most highly diversified investors in the world.
He really is.
I was wondering, do you think like Elon Musk decided to model his life on Matt Trakker? Is like, oh, I'll have factories in England and I'll make boring machines and vehicles that fly.
And AI-controlled submarines and bullet trains. I'm surprised Matt didn't create the Blackout vehicle.
It turns out that the guy who made the bullet train is the guy who created the Blackout vehicle. And I got some theories about this that I think make some sense, actually.
Well, meanwhile, speaking of Blackout, a really cool hovercraft vehicle, it's all in black, crashes through the fence of a power substation. And these 2 robot arms come out and start sucking the power out of the substation.
Yeah, let's talk about this hovercraft for a bit, because it is fucking cool looking. Like,
very cool.
It is like something out of like Robotech. Like the designs are very much like in that same thing. And I want to hit a couple of corners, actually. One of which is Science Corner.
Okay.
Okay, and then we'll do engineering corner. So it's kind of like one big corner, but this thing is not grounded. So that means it can't reroute a short circuit to the ground. Mm-hmm. So every bit of electricity is going into the vehicle itself,
right?
Which is crazy. If you wanted to try and make sure that everything went into that vehicle, that actually makes sense. Make it a hovercraft.
Right. That's a lot of power, though, right?
It's a huge amount of power. So this is engineering corner. How much juice is this actually absorbing? And spoiler alert, we're going to be absorbing all the electricity of Tokyo. And I had to do some research and math on this one, but like for a medium-sized city, which Tokyo is not, it is way bigger, but it's about every day, it takes about a gigawatt hour of energy per day. Now, a city like Tokyo or New York City probably pulls in something closer to 5 gigawatt hours, but for the sake of some math right here, let's just say it's 2.
Right.
Okay. So what is the most powerful vehicle, like almost on the road today? And that's a Tesla Roadster 2. It's second generation, which is expected to have a 200 kilowatt hour battery. Blackout as an energy capacity that is 1 million times the most advanced modern electric car in around the same physical space. It's an incredible amount of energy density.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, most of the time, I would be really quick to jump to say Miles should be selling this instead. But I'm going to hold that because I do have a working theory later on for how this actually might make sense.
Okay.
But I do have a side question for you because it's important. Adam, is this vehicle manned or unmanned? Because it definitely has a windshield to it.
I would not want to sit in that vehicle.
I get it. But like, do you think there's a Venom henchman somewhere in there? Like some unnamed like Bob or Joe or something like that?
So what we will learn later is this vehicle was created to take power from one location and bring it to a place where there's an electrical emergency. Why do you design it to be so evil looking? It's a bad guy vehicle. It's black, purple trim on it. It does not look like a happy, like, we're here to rescue you. It looks like we're here to kill you. And like, if there is someone in it, the person who comes out of it would be some sort of electrical villain.
Here's a question. Do you think this was its original paint job? Or do you think it was like some kind of like white or beige or something like really neutral and soothing? And then Miles was like, you know what? Paint it something else.
But it's still a pretty menacing looking machine.
It is.
So I think the vehicle Blackout, there's a person called Blackout inside it who is pure energy.
Okay.
Well, cut back to the train, and as the power is getting sucked out of the region, it's also getting sucked out of the train as well, and everything metal gets pulled to the roof of the train, including T-Bob.
Yeah, so this is like, it's like the writers did like half a job in terms of like understanding this, because it is true. If you run electrical current through a piece of metal, you generate a perpendicular magnetic field. Totally true. And furthermore, if you electrify certain types of material, like certain ferrous metals, they become electromagnets. The bit of research they didn't do is that a bullet train is made of an aluminum alloy.
Yeah.
Because aluminum's light and it's strong. It's what a lot of electric cars are made of. But aluminum itself is not magnetic, and it's only weakly attracted to magnets. So there might be some sort of iron or steel component to the metal. So it might be, this is kind of like me really stretching for the writers. There's an electrical field that's being generated by the short circuit that's causing all the other metals to become magnetic and become attracted to whatever is in that alloy. Of course, this is probably giving cancer to everyone on that train.
Yeah. And it's also giving you the Writers Defense Fund Award.
I am totally like batting for the writers on this one. So like I'm definitely getting the award on this one. Either way, it's pretty bad engineering given how much it's short circuited.
Another poor Matt Trakker investment. Because then the train controls catch fire, and there's no way to shut that down. The train comes to a stop. T-Bob falls from the roof onto Scott. How is Scott not severely injured by this? T-Bob is heavy.
So he should at least have a broken leg.
Yeah.
Unless we're to believe, Adam, that so much of Scott's bones have been replaced by metal already.
Or that T-Bob is some sort of super light aluminum alloy. But I think we've
Maybe.
proven many times that he's not that.
He's not.
Well, Matt waltzes right into the cockpit of the bullet train, and the engineers know him.
Yeah.
And we got a little Buddy Hawks award for the bad Japanese accent here, but we've got more of that coming.
It's actually stunning. Like, anyone who's not Bruce Sato, like, is getting like a bad Japanese accent award.
Yeah.
And this is our second time in Japan. Like, we've seen not awful Japanese accents before outside of Bruce. So this is like a weird conundrum. Like, what the fuck, guys?
Yeah, no, I know. The engineers claim that the train is at fault for causing the power outage. So they're basically blaming the train for the big outage that affected the area. But Matt is going to prove bullets a straight shooter. And this is our first of so many dad jokes in this episode. I think they have crammed more dad jokes into this episode of M.A.S.K than any other. The dad joke density in this episode is the highest we've ever seen.
It's the highest, and it's spread over everybody. Like, basically everyone has a bad dad joke.
Yep.
I really enjoy, like, we're seeing this like continuation of a trait of Matt that is like, fuck you, my investment's not going to be blamed here. I'm going to make sure everyone knows it. Because do you remember how petulant he was when he saw the sub was like loose?
Yeah.
He wants to make sure that his investments are working for him.
That's my sub.
That's my sub. This is my bullet train. Like,
I'm surprised the M.A.S.K logo isn't on the train. Well, meanwhile, Venom is meeting in an old hangar somewhere where Miles christens this new vehicle Blackout. And it turns out Miles never paid the Japanese inventor the $2 million for making it. And before we found out, I was wondering, what did he do to the inventor?
If he'd been smart, he would have Andy Trackered that guy. Maybe.
Yeah.
Like,
why even promise the guy? Why not just kill the inventor and take the weapon? Maybe in case Blackout didn't work, he wanted to be able to return it.
Maybe. What's great, though, actually, if we think about this, is that since he never paid the money to the inventor, and he didn't, I don't think, probably provided any materials, except maybe one thing, to the inventor is out of pocket now for whatever materials went into Blackout.
Yeah. Don't worry. Whatever Matt invested in the bullet train, I'm sure covers for that.
He redirected the funds to Blackout. Yeah. So Matt's inadvertently the cause of Blackout.
Yep, absolutely.
Do you love it? Like, Miles sticks with the theatrics with this naming.
It's also kind of on the nose, though.
Another dad joke here. When they talk about the inventor, Cliff's like, that guy sure got a yen for money. Get it? Yen for money? And Miles is like, we get it, knucklehead. And you know what? That is the FU that I'm hoping for through a lot of the dad jokes here. And Sly has to think about it.
He really does. He like really like rubs his chin like, yen.
Would kids get these jokes, man?
I feel like rising Japanese economy was big in culture back then. If you think of a movie like Gung Ho, for example.
Oh, yeah.
So I wonder if as kids we knew what the yen was.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Okay.
So maybe. Or, I mean, it's a dad writing this script, so...
He's a dad with concern about the rising yen.
Well, we find out that Blackout can also shoot a high-voltage blast, destroying almost anything.
Yeah, should you ask the scientists about that one?
Doesn't seem the way it was designed.
It's like, I want to make sure that I can deliver electricity and destroy things.
Miles reveals that they need to get one more collection of power. And he says, and this one's going to be a Miles Mayhem Stinger special. What the heck does that mean?
I was wondering about this. Do you think I was trying to justify it somehow. Do you think that the original name of Blackout was Stinger, but then they changed it because they had a vehicle coming out with that name?
No, because in the same episode he calls it Blackout and there's a Stinger. The lines are all there. So I have no idea. And it's talking about a stinger, like a chord used on a movie set. But now we're really out in left field here, and there's no way a kid's gonna understand what he's unless like you get stung when you get electrocuted. It's like a sting, but I don't know, man. I don't know where he's coming from with this.
It's weird. It's like undeniably weird.
Well, Matt, Scott, and T-Bob are in Thunderhawk just kind of flying around. And Scott asks them why they are cruising around. And T-Bob asks, yeah, what is this, the 50s? What the heck does that mean?
Yeah. This was like, so a couple things that occurred to me on this one. I thought the cruising joke was like, oh, it's because cruising was popular in the 50s.
Yeah, I would imagine that. Yeah.
But also, how bored is Scott now of like being in a flying car that now it's so passe at this point in time?
Why are we just flying around in a Camaro, Dad?
Yeah, I'm bored.
But I mean, who wrote this episode like Stinger and then cruising? I mean, there are some jokes I think kids get. I think there's others that kids won't get. Like, did Grandpa write this episode?
Yeah, it's okay. There is some amazingly cool animation and battle sequences in this episode.
Agreed.
So like that bit, like really, really cool. The dialogue interstitials here are just like, come on, like stop it.
No, really. So they spot the substation that Blackout attacked, and they see the fire department putting out the fire. And now Matt reveals that the bullet train isn't the only reason they came to Japan. He says Venom's in the area. So first of all, we got a Father of the Year nominee right here. Bringing your child to a location where a terrorist organization is known to be working yet again. But also, is Matt timing the investment in the bullet train to his investigation of Venom? Like, what? Like, or is it always a coincidence that Matt is like, oh, well, Venom's in the area, and the bullet train I funded happens to be going on its inaugural run. I guess I'll go there with my son.
I was wondering about this, and again, I feel like I'm going to be a star for the Defense Award fund this time. I was wondering if Matt thought this was actually a boondoggle. It was like, you know what? I've gotten some intel. They might be there, but it's probably like some BS stuff. So I'll bring, and I want to do my bullet train. Let's just check it out. That's why I'll go solo, and I'll take my kids because it's probably be fine. I don't know. Like I'm that one's a reach. That one's a reach, man.
It really is. Meanwhile, Blackout is at it again. It sucks all the power out of the airport.
Yeah. Now, this was like, felt like a lot of terrorist cruelty here. Like they're aiming at causing a lot of planes to crash.
Yeah.
Like, Venom is earning its terrorist title this time around. They're out for blood.
Thunderhawk is flying to the airport, and off in the distance, they see the glow from Blackout sucking out the power. And Matt says, either they're making a Japanese monster movie down there, or I need my vision checked. Or, Matt, maybe there's a third possibility?
Yeah, I agree. It was a little bit of a flirt for me with the Buddy Hawks Award. Like, he's like, my vision is wrong, or it's a monster movie. Because the Japanese are known for that.
Yeah, or it's Blackout.
Yeah, it's just like that thing you're after. So the control tower tells all the planes that they need to circle in the air because you're losing power. Mm-hmm. And my immediate thought was, this is the plot from Die Hard 2, 5 years before Die Hard 2.
It turns out that this show has inspired so many films and entrepreneurs over the past 40 years. It's crazy.
It really is, actually. Like we've got AI, we've got electric cars, we've got David Lynch.
Well, Matt spots Switchblade in the sky. Venom! He sends Scott and T-Bob to go hide in a hangar while he masks up and races towards the power substation.
He's got a line in here where he's like, so, now they're in the utility business, huh? I'm like, again, kids?
Every other line in this episode is a dad joke.
Oh, yeah. Up until like really soon, it's like, it's kind of it's jokey all the time, and the stakes are played for laughs.
Yeah.
And now Scott and T-Bob are just in some random hangar.
And as it turns out, it is a pretty safe place for them to be, considering what's about to happen to Thunderhawk. So Miles does spot Thunderhawk, and he says, "What a shocking surprise to see you, M.A.S.K. Hope you're feeling energetic." Hug.
Everybody's doing it this episode.
And we have a Thunderhawk versus Blackout land battle, which is odd because Thunderhawk can fly and Blackout can't.
Yep.
But okay. And then during this chase is an oil tanker that gets flipped over. T-Bob and Scott are watching this all from atop some oil barrels outside the hangar. And then Blackout hits Thunderhawk, causing it to flip over. But somehow Matt survives. So we've got a Slyrax Ragdoll Award nomination right here.
Yeah, I mean, it's dramatic. Everything in this sequence is dramatic because, like, Thunderhawk is outgunned. It's got Blackhawk and Switchblade on its tail.
Yep.
And they do some real damage to it. I really enjoyed them knocking over that oil tanker because that is definitely manned. They show a picture.
There's a guy in there.
Yeah, he is frightened. And like my first thought when it turned over was, is he dead now?
Yeah, so add to the body count right now. And then T-Bob, he falls down the stack of oil drums that he and Scott are standing on, and he goes unconscious. Like, how is that possible? He's a robot.
It's like, unless Scott was fucked with his circuits enough, it's like too many times there's something rattled inside of him.
Yeah.
I thought a better play would have been either to have T-Bob be hit by a laser, or have his energy be sucked out somehow by Blackout, like kind of.
Well, that would have been good writing.
That is true. Huh? T-Hawk's fucked up, man. They got this great shot of it completely upside down with the wings open.
Wings open, it's upside down. The windshield is cracked. The headlights are cracked. Matt survives somehow.
Yes.
But yeah, Thunderhawk is messed up. It seems out of commission, which is going to come up in a few moments. Matt tries Spectrum Laser on Blackout, but it just sucks up the power. And then Blackout shoots at Matt, sending him flying.
Yes.
This is a major Ragdoll nomination. He got hit with I don't know how many kilowatts of electricity. And he went flying and went unconscious.
It is some really cool stuff happening here. First off, like when he fires Spectrum Laser, if you actually watch it, the laser arcs to the collection point, which kind of implies there's some sort of like semi-spherical electric field around it that is drawing the power in, which is cool.
Yeah.
And then that laser blast, man, he is flying through the air.
Oh yeah, no, he's dead.
And again, like jokingness aside, if you look at kind of the substance that's here, like Venom shut down an airport, threatening like how many thousands of lives,
right?
And they're like fucking up Matt.
Yeah,
they're a credible threat again.
And Matt is outnumbered, outgunned, and he's getting beaten by Venom here.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I mean, Venom has ratcheted up the tension. No more vacuuming up change from the floor of a casino for Venom. They're back on top.
Comically, we never get a threat from them to the country. So, like we don't precisely know if they wanted to go to one of Tokyo's casinos and use Blackout so they can repeat their vacuuming.
You make a really great point. They have the threat, but they do not have what they're looking for. It's like a terrorist. I have a bomb. And that's all.
I have it. I'm going to use it. What do you want? I've given you my demands. He's done that in Japan before, so I'm not sure if it's like a cultural thing or it's like he keeps forgetting.
He's too polite to let them know. This is a very polite culture.
They're freaking out.
They'll just offer something. Well, Miles says, "Sweet dreams, M.A.S.K. Let's go, Blackout. Your performance has given me a real charge." Stop it. Stop it.
You keep undercutting like the severity, Miles, and the weight of what you're doing. We want to give you more credit, but you're not helping it. Okay.
No.
Did you think that Miles thought that Matt, obviously would think of him as the M.A.S.K. leader, was dead? I mean,
yeah.
Is that why he doesn't fire a few missiles to like finish him off? Because I could buy it.
Yeah, the guy got hit with like a gigawatt of electricity.
Yeah.
He's dead. I mean, and Miles takes it pretty chill. He's like, "Sweet dreams, M.A.S.K. Like, that's cold."
He is.
He's not like, "Yes, I finally did it." He's like, "Yeah, let's go." Makes a joke and gets out of there.
Yeah.
Ice cold, Miles. You got your mojo back. Look, it's a real nightmare situation out there. We got Matt unconscious. Thunderhawk is destroyed. Now the flipped over oil tanker starts leaking out and a fire breaks out and the oil slick is headed towards Matt. T-Bob appears to be dead. Scott is freaking out. His dad's about to get burned alive. It's over.
Yeah, there's some real stakes right now. And this moment from the perspective of Scott is undeniably scary.
Yeah.
Like, it's a really scary moment. Like, his dad's about to die. His robot's out of commission.
Yeah, trauma. He's going to need to see a psychiatrist yet again. But PJ, I got to ask you the question. What's going to happen?
I don't know.
We'll find out after these messages.
Come on, T-Bob. M.A.S.K will be right back. Oh boy, back to M.A.S.K.
And we're back. When we left you, Scott was in a full-on panic attack. I mean, things are really, really bad. His dad's about to get burned alive right before his eyes. His idiotic robot is no longer functioning. And, I guess there's at least the money he'll inherit.
He and Gloria are going to inherit a lot of money real soon.
True. Yep. But Scott digs around inside T-Bob's head, gets him to wake up, transforms into scooter mode, and they go out and rescue Matt.
And Scott has very few dad jokes, but I actually thought this was a great line to motivate it. Because he says, Dad's too heavy for me to pull away from the fire. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, that's okay. That's a really good motivator. Like, that's the reason you need T-Bob. And then they do some honest to goodness heroics, like of pulling him right, because they could die too.
Right. No, they pull him like about 2 feet away from the fire getting to him.
Did you notice that Matt didn't really thank them? Like, the closest he gets is this exchange where T-Bob's like, I'm either really weak or you are really heavy. And Scott basically is like, maybe you need to start a workout program. And Matt says, he's already a heavyweight in my book. And there's just like these smiles and moment of silence. But
well, yeah. I mean, first of all, how about thanks for saving my life? And two, at least a little recognition of T-Bob. Not a single recognition of his son.
I know!
Who risked everything to save his life.
I mean, in theory, T-Bob could have survived the fire.
Yeah.
But not Scott.
Despite Thunderhawk being basically destroyed, Matt is able to use the computer to assemble a M.A.S.K team. So here are the agents. We get Alex Sector, and we learn from the computer that his planning abilities will be integral to the operation. Okay. Bruce Sato, whose design capabilities could come into play. Okay. We have Gloria Baker, champion race driver, black belt in Kung Fu, team hottie, and Matt's wife.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent driving abilities necessary. Should we see if any of those skills come into play?
Yeah, let's do a grading of this one again. I like these accents. I mean, they're kind of fun, but I do feel like they feel Chekhov gun-like. Like, you have to pay it off.
So the M.A.S.K jet lands in Tokyo. Might as well get a travel time check here.
It's about 12 hours as a direct flight from Denver to Tokyo. So it's, and when you see it land, it's during the day, and we just saw blackout at night. So it's like, hey, it's plausible it got there at the next day, basically.
All right. Good job, M.A.S.K. Thunderhawk rolls up to meet the jet. How in the world is Thunderhawk still drivable?
So I was like, Scott, remember that time you had to put Thunderhawk back together after I destroyed it in Solaria Park? Time to put those skills to good use again. Oh boy, Dad, I'm ready.
So, I mean, I guess they had 12 hours to work on it.
That earlier lesson we've had where it's like, don't build electronics, like with that robot thing.
Yeah.
We know that's to be bullshit because we see it over and over again.
Right.
Also, it probably means Scott was hopped up on some kind of upper all night long in order to get this vehicle ready.
Yeah, Matt was just pouring Mountain Dew into him.
Mountain Dew and cocaine.
Well, the team goes to visit the inventor who also worked on the bullet train, right? So as we pointed out earlier, the guy who created the bullet train also created Blackout. This guy's accent is insultingly bad. This is a major Buddy Hawks nomination here.
Yeah. I was so shocked when I first heard how bad this voice was.
Yes.
And I know it's trying to distinguish itself from Bruce, but I mean, I was like, wow, did they hire Mickey Rooney from Breakfast at Tiffany's? Because it's that level of just outlandish.
It's so bad. It is so, so bad.
In this sequence, they do manage to ask and answer the question, how can it be used for good? Which I actually thought was a good question to ask. Because you're right. It seems like a really just evil vehicle.
Right. And as we said, the original purpose was to draw electricity from one source and deliver it somewhere else where there's an electrical emergency, right? Like, I don't know, how about a tsunami?
Right.
Takes out a nuclear power plant. But there's like a dozen other ways to do this. Like, you don't need to create a really evil looking vehicle that sucks power out of the power grid.
Yeah. And so I mentioned earlier, and I'll do it now, that I was trying to think about like, what was it that this scientist actually made? Because I was sort of ready to really shit on Miles again for like, hey, you've got a power source that, you know, would basically be the electric car revolution. Like,
yeah.
And again, Writer's Defense Award winner today. We know that M.A.S.K and Venom vehicles are able to do really incredible things, like have a Camaro fly. And last episode, we saw both Manta and Thunderhawk make the flight from Beijing to Easter Island. Mm-hmm. And we know there's an exotic power source that is in both the vehicles and the M.A.S.K. And we see the M.A.S.Ks get charged in the star chamber, which implies it's like very compact and powerful and energy efficient. So I was wondering, what if the tech for the energy storage on the vehicle is actually what's used for blackout? Mm-hmm. Like this is actually, the scientist didn't invent that, but was basically given that by Venom. And it's still sort of military grade or beyond military grade. So that's why it's under wraps. So
I'll go with you.
So then it's like, what was the scientist actually working on then? And then maybe the scientist worked on the charging equipment necessary to make it fast enough to work with that energy storage system.
All right. I'm still with you.
Yeah. So that was kind of like that. It was like, okay, so the scientist kind of like didn't invent this thing. This technology already exists. And so we're just kind of like repurposing it. But then again, if you believe all this, why is Matt Trakker then stopping the creation of the electric car? Should we now investigate his Boulder Hill holdings? Uh-huh. Does he have oil interests because he runs a gas station? Or is this all just military grade equipment that we can't let out there?
Yeah, well, I would imagine that Matt has investments all over the place. We can go way back to that episode, Video Venom, where Venom was going to destroy an oil refinery. That was probably Matt's oil refinery.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Wow. Matt's got his hands in everything.
He does.
Matt, in another world, Matt is a supervillain.
Yeah. And Venom is actually the rebellion against him.
There you go. Yep. We've cracked this wide open.
Dun, dun, dun. What was one detail that they missed, though, in terms of questioning?
Yeah, it didn't mention anything about shooting out a high voltage blast or blackout. Like, how is that supposed to help in an emergency? In case there's a panic, you can take people out.
Crowd control.
So the inventor says, like a man believes his father, the man said he was going to pay me $2 million for building the machine. Instead, he stole it. I mean, I just gotta say, like, it's pretty suspicious. Some dude in a military uniform walks in and says, "Hey, that's cool. I'll pay you $2 million for it." Oh, great. Like, I'll pay you later.
Okay.
Here's my card. It says Matt Trakker on it.
So I was wondering, are we to believe this? Like he says, like a man believes his father. Did this scientist transfer some of his latent paternal trauma and feelings to Miles Mayhem?
This guy's just bouncing back and forth between Miles and Matt as a father figure.
It really is. Maybe that's why Matt has some sympathy for him because of his own conflicted feelings towards Miles.
I would also like to point out that the M.A.S.K team is there. So it's Matt, Gloria, Bruce, and Alex. But Scott and T-Bob are also there. Like, what are they doing there? Send them to the hotel.
Is the hotel out of power?
Send them to the hotel. Who cares?
Just drive all the way there, Scott.
Yeah, just figure it out, man. Plug T-Bob into the TV and watch some Japanese game shows.
Scott, you're used to both being in a foreign country alone, as well, for which you do not speak the language, right, as well as riding T-Bob out in the open. You'll be fine.
You'll be fine. So Alex asks if there's any way to shut blackout down. And the inventor says, it would be like short-circuiting the sun. My invention is a single-minded shark in a sea of plenty. So we've got a pretty solid Satoism here. But also, what in the world has he created? It would be like short-circuiting the sun?
It's such a moment of like, is this like this guy is mistranslating it? Or like, what did you create for $2 million, sir?
Yeah, I mean, also, or is it just hubris? I think we'll figure out a way to do it. Because, by the way, they short circuit it with T-Bob later on. So
It's true. It's really true.
Bruce hears that Satoism and he one-ups him and says, for every poison, there is an antidote. And I think if we let these two guys alone, they'd be just going back and forth all day.
I know. I was wondering, like, is this like just their characters? Like they just want to one up, like, hey, this is my really cool saying. Or how much is this the writers being racist again in terms of thinking like, this is how people in Japan speak to each other. They speak in koans all the time.
So they realize that if they can overload blackout circuits, they can defeat it. And Bruce just gets to one-up the inventor here and says, and when giants meet, a storm will follow.
Which is weird, okay? I mean, it is like, at first glance, it feels like, oh, well, this makes a lot of sense. But then if you think about it, it's like, wait, what?
Huh? Giants and a storm? Yeah, I picture Bruce dropping the mic, though, when he says it. He's like, giants meet, a storm will follow. Mic
Bam.
drop, middle finger to the inventor, and he walks. Well, Matt says that they're going to make their own high-voltage machine. That could be an electrifying experience. And it's nice to see Gloria getting in on the dad jokes there.
I felt like this was evidence that Gloria is starting to lean into a role as Scott's mother by making shitty jokes.
Yeah.
Also, is this her only line in the episode?
It is her only line in the episode. Come on, Gloria.
Come on, writers.
Well, Matt says that he and Alex have a plan called Operation Horseshoe. The plan is for Rhino, Shark, and Thunderhawk to fire electrical impulses towards T-Bob and use him as an electrical conductor. How is that not going to destroy T-Bob?
I mean, I'm wondering if Matt has a side goal here of maybe destroying T-Bob. Of just like, all right, 2 birds with 1 stone.
I mean, if you think of it, I guess it's the easiest collateral damage they have. It's like, well, I don't want to waste one of the vehicles, and I can't use my son as an electrical conductor, but I got T-Bob. I mean, if the plan blows up, what have we really lost?
I guess if you believe that T-Bob's got the same sort of storage capacity as the vehicles, then maybe.
Keep on trying to defend those riders.
I know. I feel like, I went whole into Big M.A.S.K, Big Kenner.
Meanwhile, Venom is on its way with Blackout to another power station. And Miles says, I'm glad I have a front row seat for this light show. And enough with the dad jokes already, guys. Come on.
This episode would be 10 times better if you stripped every dad joke out of it.
Yeah.
Because like it every single time it just undercuts the threat.
Yeah.
When there's a credible threat there. Like it's actually a fun, credible threat. But every single time one of these dad jokes goes in, you just take it out.
Anyways, Alex makes some modifications to T-Bob, and Scott assures T-Bob that they should trust Matt. Should they, though?
It feels very sketchy to me. This definitely, again, it's like Matt maybe should have gotten one more vehicle in there.
Yeah.
And then Rhino probably would have been the best one for the center.
Yeah.
But now Alex has made whatever modifications to magnify electricity threefold through T-Bob.
Yeah.
And Scott makes the David and Goliath comparison.
I guess we're approaching biblical times here for T-Bob, so he's getting very, very reflective here. Well, Matt overhears that Tokyo's power is being drained, and so it's time to take off for Tokyo. And Matt says, let's shed a little light on the subject. And then Gloria strangled Matt for the dad jokes, and Matt is dead. Well, Tokyo's power goes out, M.A.S.K shows up, and Matt says, start the horseshoe, and we go into our final M.A.S.K Venom battle of the episode. Blackout gets a few shots off, but I guess the M.A.S.K vehicles have lightning rods now?
Yeah, so it's interesting because the M.A.S.K vehicles aren't totally fucked up now. They're able to absorb the power, but it knocks them around. So, I mean, like, it actually is kind of a nice balance between Deus Ex Machina technology and, like, being destroyed. So it's like, hey, we can stay in the fight.
Right. Piranha fires a missile at Thunderhawk, but Matt uses Spectrum Deus Ex Helmet and sends the missile back towards Piranha.
Sly's got this crazy line in there. It's not even a dad joke, but he said, I sent it first class, but you sent it, you come back to me, parcel post. And it was like, again, like what? Like that wasn't even a dad joke. That was just weird.
Rhino sends a laser blast from Jackhammer back towards Jackhammer, blowing out its tire. We have a cool shark manta face-off. Gloria fires 2 missiles with such precision that they lodge themselves in Manta's headlights and sends the car driving backwards. Wild, one. Gloria is a crack shot, so I don't deny that. But why don't the missiles just blow up Manta?
So I think so we've seen this constantly. Gloria loves to show how badass she is.
Yeah.
And she wants an audience. So she uses her crack shot skills, which again, she's got like the theatrics in her as well. And she wants Vanessa to know, yeah, I'm fucking badass.
I could blow you up, but I didn't. In fact, so what happens is Manta goes flying back into Jackhammer, flips over, lands upside down on top of Jackhammer, and assuming Vanessa survives, she does. That's a major Sly Rax Ragdoll nomination right there.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
M.A.S.K forms the horseshoe. They turn on their energy absorbers. So now they have lightning rods and energy absorbers. Now it is T-Bob's turn to shine. He runs out into the middle of the horseshoe. They fire their energy bolts at T-Bob, who kind of claps his hands in front of him. And they conduct the energy, and he fires it out at Blackout, destroying it. And kind of cool, right? Did you hear the touch from the Transformers movie?
Here's the thing, and if people, and assuming this goes out intact, I did hear the touch, but because this is the low rent version of it, I did hear the Boogie Nights, Marky Mark's version of the touch from that movie. So it was definitely kind of more of the low rent version, but I did notice like T-Bob's eyes are pretty mean. Like he's like in it to win it. Like he's got the face, he's got the eye of the tiger.
He really does. He's gone Roy Batty in that moment.
He has.
I mean, look, I guess though, was T-Bob really necessary in this operation? Couldn't they have just fired their 3 lightning bolts at Blackout all at the same time?
Yeah, they totally could have. They try to justify it with that line that T-Bob has the ability to magnify the energy by 3-fold, which is however that happens. I mean, I think it was basically like, we want to have like a fun, we want this set piece of seeing T-Bob basically fire an energy blast. Is it necessary? Absolutely not. I do want to revisit that question from earlier, though. Is there someone inside that thing? Because they did now.
They are dead. I mean, there is not a scrap of Blackout left after the explosion.
Yes.
It's like vaporized.
Yeah. Hey, if you were Miles Mayhem, would you start to pay attention to this robot, this egg-shaped robot that keeps spoiling your plans? Because he did have an up-close and personal experience back in Cold Fever, and he clearly saw him.
I think he definitely has some cognitive decline. Well, Venom escapes, and Miles says, "This isn't lights out for me." So he goes ahead and he leaves one last dad joke behind, like a piece of panda poo, as he flies off into the night. Thank you, Venom.
Yeah.
And then, it just kind of smiles and a very long overhead shot.
Yeah.
As they're realizing the episode is like 10 seconds short. So they just extend the shot and it's a very slow.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
So let's look back. Shall we grade the team based on why the computer selected them?
Let's do it. So, Alex, how did his planning skills help the operations?
They planned a horseshoe.
Okay, I guess that works. Sure. And Bruce was called upon because of his design skills. So what did he design here?
He designed some really good Satoisms.
Were most of his lines really just one-upping the scientist?
Yeah, I mean, you would have thought that he would have designed like the engineering for the horseshoe operation.
Yeah.
But no, nothing.
Okay.
Gloria was what? Driving skills needed?
Yes. She did drive her car
She
and
drove her
drive it
car.
well.
Yep. Well done,
And
Gloria.
fired those missiles to say F you, Vanessa. Also, she's married to Matt, so.
Yeah. Given one line. Anyways, that's the episode. The more you know moment. Scott and T-Bob are riding around in scooter mode, and they're talking about Sunday drives and things like that. And then suddenly, two kids ride by on a bike. One kid's riding on the handlebars. They hit a rock, and the kids fall off the bike. And Scott says, "You should never ride two on a bike." In the most smug way I've ever heard come out of Scott. Like, he's so uppity in that moment.
He really is. And like the thought I had, because like, I think Scott and us forget the fact that he is the son of a billionaire.
Yeah.
And he is saying this to two kids who, like, there's no kids in the same economic bracket as him.
Yeah. Anywhere in the world.
But the kids who are going to be riding two on a bike aren't in a high economic bracket.
Right.
So I just really felt like he was like, this is a class moment for him.
It really was.
And like, these kids would be like, fuck you. Not all of us can afford to have our own scooter, rich kid.
Yeah.
Our own robot scooter.
Two things I want to point out. One is I believe one of the kids was wearing a helmet, which is new for the 80s. And two, they've already done this lesson before, haven't they? With T-Bob. Wasn't T-Bob riding on the front of a bike and he fell off?
Yeah, I think, and Matt got really fucking pissed.
He got really pissed.
So I wonder if like the real lesson here is don't be a dick if you have more money than other kids. Like, I feel like that's actually, if it's a repeat, let's say, can we dig something else out of this? Because he's a dick to these kids.
I think the lesson is be a dick. Because Scott like rides off into the sunset and these kids are injured on the ground.
In the middle of the street.
So the lesson is, kids, be rich. Afford your own bike. All right. Let's take a look at our awards. The Buddy Hawks Award?
Oh, man. Whomever voiced the Japanese scientist, I felt like, and pretty much everyone else that isn't Bruce Sato.
Yeah. So unnecessary. Father of the Year Award.
But there's a lot of stuff here. You could have Matt taking his son into danger multiple times.
Yep.
You could have basically Matt not thanking his son for saving his life. I thought it was making his son's only and best friend and nanny take part in a highly risky maneuver that's likely to fry its circuits.
Yeah, I agree with that one. And just bringing your son to a known terrorist location again. I mean, you've got a giant mansion. Just leave him there.
How much is that an indication of this? Like, you know, Gloria's like, no, I don't want to watch him while you go off on some adventure in Japan. Huh?
He's not my kid.
Either take us all together or take him yourself.
That's a great question. What was Gloria doing all this time?
we never see any of these cutscenes for them leaving.
Yeah, what was she? She was shopping?
I don't know.
Or whatever. Well, the Sly Rax Ragdoll Award. There's so many nominations this episode.
There's so many nominations, man. I mean, we just had that great one with Vanessa, a minor one of T-Bob. I thought Matt getting fucked up by Blackout, though, that was a hardcore moment.
Yeah, no, it was twice in a row. One is Thunderhawk gets completely ruined and is upside down, and he crawls out of it and then gets hit by, hundreds of kilowatts of energy.
Yeah.
Matt's dead. He is dead. R.I.P. Matt. We'll see you next episode. So I guess Panda Poo, not Panda Poo entirely. Yeah.
I would say, here's the thing. It's like, this is in the upper 50% of the episodes we've seen. I think it's Venom's on track again. Like, they're becoming credible. Still would love to see them threaten to find out what they wanted as ransom and whatnot. I think if you had different dialogue that was not everyone making a dad joke every time, this would have been a good episode bordering on great. Like, it's great animation. There's some real credible threats that are there. Like, what damages it is the dialogue is shit. The accents are awful. And Venom doesn't pull its demands forward.
I feel like this would be without all that, it would be a fair episode bordering on good because there are no stakes. So you have this thing. What are you going to do with it? So
yeah.
Well,
we got the Roy Batty. I forgot about that one.
Yes, we do have a Roy Batty award. He goes Roy. I don't think it's an award. I think he has gone Roy Batty.
Yes, he gets to actually like fuck some shit up finally.
He does. He really does. Well, that is it for episode 28. Episode 29, A Matter of Gravity. Firecracker is destroyed in a battle with Venom, and Hondo gets a new replacement vehicle, Hurricane, in the end. And there's a note here that Hurricane was called Night Stalker in this episode.
So there's fun trivia for that next time. But whoa!
Yeah, that's a big one.
You and I have been inserting change and continuity into every episode thus far to fill in the blanks.
Right.
But this is actually something that has lasting consequences.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a great toy. Hurricane was one of my favorites of the M.A.S.K toy line. I played with it until it broke, and I think I had to get another one.
Hurricane was super cool. It's also interesting because this episode has been teased since the opening credits of the first episode. Like, we've seen this other vehicle forever, and it's like, what is this?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, too, because we see other vehicles get completely wrecked, like Thunderhawk in this episode.
Yeah.
And then bounce back either the next episode or within the same episode, like this episode.
Yeah.
This is one where Firecracker is so destroyed that they cannot reconstruct it. So I'm very eager to dive into this episode.
So the spoiler alert on that is that it does show up in later episodes again, but Hurricane's still around too. So it's bizarre, but regardless, at the time that it happens, it's pretty dramatic.
Yeah, we're going to find out next week. But for now, this podcast has to transform and head back to HQ. I am Adam Moore.
And I am PJ McNerney.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
The Mobile Armored Podcast Show is written, produced, and edited by Adam Moore and PJ McNerney.